Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I turned 18 and got a job at Walmart. Since I didn't have a car, I walked to and from work every day. It was good exercise, kept me healthy, and I didn't mind it most days. The walk gave me time to think, and on my way home from the graveyard shift, I'd always stop by the Target that was along my route. My girlfriend worked at the Target pharmacy. We'd been together for about 6 months at that point, and I made it a habit to visit her whenever I could. It was my way of showing her I cared, even though I was usually dead tired from working 10-hour overnight shifts at Walmart. Her father was the store manager at Target, which worked out pretty well for me. He thought it was hilarious that his daughter was dating a Walmart employee who spent more money at Target than at his own workplace. The thing about working at these big retail stores is that the uniforms are pretty distinct. Walmart is all blue, Target is all red. You'd think that would be obvious to anyone who shops at both places, but you'd be surprised. This morning I was running on fumes. I'd worked almost 3 weeks straight without a single day off because half my co-workers decided they just didn't feel like showing up anymore. Management kept begging me to cover shifts, and like an idiot, I kept saying yes. I hadn't had coffee yet. I was tense because my girlfriend had been in a mood lately, and I probably looked like death warmed over. I'd just finished talking with my girlfriend for about an hour at the pharmacy counter. She was having a good morning, which was a relief. We laughed, joked around, and I felt like maybe my day wouldn't be so bad after all. I needed to pick up some games for my console, grab some clothes, and get some food before heading home to crash. I made my way to the food aisles and started grabbing energy drinks and junk food. Now, I should mention that I used to be a stalker at Walmart, and I had pretty bad obsessive-compulsive disorder. Even when I was shopping, I couldn't help myself. If I saw items out of place, I'd put them back where they belonged. On my way through the produce section, I reorganized some fruits and vegetables that customers had left in random spots, just trying to be helpful, keep things neat. I was heading toward the clothing section, feeling decent despite my exhaustion, when this woman appeared out of nowhere. She was young, probably in her mid-20s, and objectively attractive. But the vibe coming off her was pure rage. She walked right up to me, looked at my Walmart vest with my name tag and manager badge clearly visible, and started screaming at me in what I think was Italian or maybe Spanish. It was so fast and angry that I couldn't make out a single word. I asked her to please calm down, trying to keep my voice steady. She took a few deep breaths but kept glaring at me like I'd just run over her dog. She told me I thought I could ignore her and then tell her what to do. She claimed she'd been trying to get my attention for 10 minutes. Then she demanded I tell her where the electronics aisle was and help her find a game for her fiancé. She really emphasized that last word, like she thought I was hitting on her or something, which was absurd. She might have been pretty, but she had nothing on my girlfriend. I looked around at the giant signs hanging from the ceiling that clearly labeled every section of the store. I really didn't want to deal with this. I was tired, I wanted to go home, and I definitely didn't want my good mood ruined. I pointed in the direction of electronics and told her it was over there. I mentioned I had things to pick up before going home and suggested she should find an actual employee. I tried to be polite, tried to keep my tone neutral, but that just seemed to make her angrier. She yelled that I did work here, and she could see my name tag and position badge. She asked if this was really how management treated paying customers. She called me a lazy piece of garbage and threw in about 20 more curse words, calling me everything under the sun. I'm not going to repeat them. I told her I worked at Walmart, not Target, and asked if she knew what store she was in. The words came out before I could stop them, and I knew immediately I'd messed up. I kept my customer service smile plastered on my face the whole time, which probably didn't help. She screamed that I shouldn't dare talk down to her. She insisted I was wearing the Target uniform, so I must work there. She threatened to report me and get me fired, and then said she was going to laugh about it. She was screaming now and people were starting to stare. I just wanted to leave, so I turned around to walk away. She grabbed my arm and yanked me backward so hard I stumbled. I don't know if she was super strong or if I was just that exhausted, but I almost fell over. She kept screaming and yelling, demanding to see the store manager. This went on for what felt like forever, probably about 30 minutes. At some point, she started hitting me, just slapping and punching my arms and chest. I stood there and took it, not moving, not reacting. In my head, I was thinking about how my girlfriend would react if I defended myself. She had a tight grip on my temper, and I knew if I laid a hand on this woman, I'd be the one in trouble. The store manager showed up, my girlfriend's father. He started to ask if there was a problem, but the woman cut him off immediately. She yelled that this lazy employee was refusing to help her and talking back. She claimed she made more money in a day than I made in a month. She said if I wasn't fired right now and banned from this store, she was going to the media. She was jabbing her finger into his chest hard enough to push him backward. More screaming, more profanity. By this point, I was completely checked out mentally, just zoning out and waiting for this nightmare to end. An off-duty sheriff who was shopping for groceries walked over and called for backup. I guess he didn't want to deal with this on his day off, but at least he was there. The next part is a bit fuzzy in my memory because I was so tired, but things escalated fast. The cops showed up and restrained the woman. The store manager, who knew me personally, started explaining the situation. My girlfriend came out from the pharmacy, and let me tell you, the look on her face was terrifying. She was way more intimidating than her father when she was angry. But the woman started screaming that I touched her inappropriately and tried to assault her. Me, half dead from exhaustion, still in my Walmart uniform, supposedly attacked this random woman in the middle of Target. My girlfriend was listening to all of this, and I could see her jaw clenching. We'd been friends since first grade, so she knew me better than anyone. She didn't believe a word this woman was saying. The police asked me what happened. I told them to check the security cameras because I desperately needed to sleep before my shift later that day. I was supposed to train new employees on stalking and zoning. They said they needed me to wait while they reviewed the footage, so they put me in handcuffs and took me to a back room. I literally fell asleep sitting in a chair, still in cuffs. I woke up when they took the handcuffs off and told me I was free to go. The cameras had shown everything. The woman being ignored by me because I was shopping, her approaching me, her grabbing me, her hitting me. All of it. My girlfriend got permission to leave work early to drive me to her place so I could sleep. Target gave me everything in my card for free. The woman was arrested and charged with assault and filing a false police report. Her fiancé ended up being one of the new employees I had to train at Walmart. He was a really good guy. We liked the same games, same movies, same music. When he found out I was the person his fiancé had attacked, he offered to buy me a soda and a pack of cigarettes. I only accepted the cigarettes, and we ended up becoming great friends. A few years later, I moved across the country for a better job. My girlfriend and I eventually broke up, but we stayed friends. She ended up getting together with my buddy from Walmart, the guy whose fiancé went to jail. They're married now and seem really happy. I was visiting my buddy who owns a trailer park. His house doubles as the main office, so he lives right on the property. I'd just gotten there that evening, and a new couple had moved into one of the lots with their mobile home. They seemed normal enough at first, but things went sideways fast. Around 3 in the morning, my friend woke me up. The boyfriend from the new couple was at the door wanting to call the police. My buddy filled me in while we walked to the living room. The guy had gotten a DNA test done and found out their newborn baby wasn't his. While his girlfriend was still in the hospital recovering from giving birth, he decided to sleep with some other woman to get back at her for cheating. Earlier that day, the girlfriend got released from the hospital. The boyfriend refused to pick her up, so she walked the entire 20 miles from the hospital to the trailer park. When she got there, she found him with his mistress. She lost it and started destroying their tiny mobile home. The boyfriend and his mistress threw their clothes on and he drove her home, leaving his girlfriend alone with the baby. When he got back, she locked him out of the mobile home. That's why he showed up at my buddy's place at 3 in the morning. I sat with a guy while my friend handled things. I explained that if the baby wasn't his and he signed the birth certificate, He had 60 days to get his name removed, or he'd be stuck paying child support. I also warned him that calling the cops might not help much since she'd established residency at the mobile home. The police showed up, knocked on the door, and she let them in. They did a welfare check on the baby and left. She led the boyfriend back inside after that. I thought maybe things would calm down. Less than 30 minutes later, the boyfriend came back to the office. He needed to call the cops again because she'd stolen his car. He said she even tried to run him over before speeding off into the night. Before the police could arrive, she came back and started doing donuts in my buddy's front yard. She tore up his garden and destroyed the grass. She stopped right before the cops pulled up. The police arrested her on the spot. The charge was misdemeanor malicious mischief for ruining my buddy's garden. That was it. One day later, she got released on bond. She went straight back to the mobile home and got into another fight with the boyfriend. During the argument, she scratched at her own throat until she left a mark. Then she called the cops and claimed he'd assaulted her. The police came and arrested him for domestic violence. They took the baby and put him in protective custody. I know for a fact she made up the assault story because she bragged about it after the cops left. She even called the boyfriend's parents and bragged about getting their son locked up. My buddy was freaking out at this point. He had a crazy woman on his property with no income, and she'd just gotten their only source of income arrested and fired from his job. There was no way they'd pay rent anytime soon. He wanted her gone, but legally he couldn't do anything because they weren't behind on rent yet. Another day passed. The boyfriend was still locked up and the woman started throwing all their belongings into the yard. Some of it landed on my buddy's property. He told her she needed to clean it up by 6 p.m. or he'd write up a violation. She ignored him. An hour later, I was helping my buddy move some bricks in his backyard, which was right next to the lot. The whole time the woman was yelling to herself, not normal talking, but screaming random things. She went on about being fired from jobs that paid minimum wage, $10 an hour, $35,000 a year. She called them all terrible names. Then she screamed about wanting to enjoy her life in peace, but people wouldn't let her. She even said she'd kill them. We decided not to acknowledge her at all. We went back inside for lunch. Then we saw smoke. This crazy woman was piling up her stuff and had lit it on fire. Not even on her own lot, but on my buddy's property. My buddy called the cops, and they showed up fast along with the fire department. They found her holding a lighter and a can of gasoline. She had the water running to her mobile home and she tried to turn it off, but the cops stopped her. My buddy went and turned off the water for her, since the cops told him to. She screamed at my buddy for doing that even though the police had ordered it. The fire department put out the fire and the cops handcuffed her and put her in their car. They'd finally charge her with arson. Nope. The fire marshal refused to investigate, so it couldn't be classified as arson. The cops wrote her a citation and released her. My buddy told the cops he wanted to press charges for trespassing since she started the fire on his property. The cops said they couldn't because they needed to prove intent. She needed to know she was trespassing. Since there wasn't a clear marker, they couldn't arrest her. My buddy asked if the cop would explain to her where his property line was, so that next time she trespassed, they could arrest her. The cop agreed and explained the boundaries to her. When the cops were leaving, she looked at us and said we were lucky she didn't bash our heads in with her baseball bat. Then she said she was going to blow our heads off and called us terrible names. The cops had their windows down and heard everything, but they did nothing. They just drove away. An hour passed and we saw her standing in the middle of the street stopping cars. Finally, someone pulled into the park and let her use their phone. She was calling the cops to try to get them to arrest my buddy for turning off her water, which the police had ordered him to do. Since she was standing on my buddy's property to make the call, he pulled out his phone and recorded her. Then he called the cops himself. When the police arrived, they put her in handcuffs immediately. The cop who'd responded earlier watched the video my buddy recorded. He explained that he wouldn't be arresting her for trespassing. Instead, he was doing an emergency order of detention. She'd be taken to the hospital for evaluation and then released. He said she'd be back out before the day was done. My buddy didn't push for trespassing charges. After the cops left, he called the boyfriend's parents. They had the only key to the mobile home since it had been on their son when he was arrested. They came out and locked up the mobile home. My buddy noticed a water leak at the valve, so he turned off the water to the entire park briefly, cut off the section of pipe attached to the valve, and capped it off. Remember how he'd warned her to clean up her yard? She never did. Instead, she threw almost everything from the mobile home into the yard. According to the rental agreement, my buddy cleaned her yard himself. He took everything, the television, the mattress, the microwave, everything, and hauled it to the dump. Then he wrote up a violation and a bill for cleaning her yard. She got out a few hours after being taken to the hospital and called the boyfriend's parents for a ride. They hung up on her immediately and called us. We had plans to grill out for dinner, and my buddy invited them over. She arrived after sunset, long after we'd eaten. We were sitting on my buddy's patio with a clear view of the mobile home. When she saw us, she let loose. She called us pieces of trash and worthless people. She hoped we'd all suffer. She called us every name she could think of. She hadn't gotten to the mobile home yet, and because it was dark, she couldn't see that her yard had been cleaned. We sat there and took everything she threw at us, laughing because we knew what was coming. After she realized we were laughing, she told us all to go to hell. Then she stormed off toward the mobile home. When she got closer, she could see her yard was empty. When she reached the door, she saw the notice. When she tried the handle, it wouldn't turn. After a few moments of silence, it clicked. She screamed out into the night, calling us terrible names. She must have been thirsty because she went to the water hose. It wasn't on. Then she went to turn on the water and found the valve had been capped off. My buddy called out to her and apologized. He said there was a water leak at the valve, and since it was park property, he capped it off. He told her he'd have it repaired within the next 2 weeks, though. Coincidentally, 2 weeks was the earliest he could start the eviction process. I teach Kimpo Karate as a second-degree black belt. My assistant is a first-degree black belt in her own right. I don't own the gym, my instructor does, but since he's gotten older, my assistant and I handle the younger classes while he handles the business side of things plus adult class. My instructor took me under his wing when I was just a kid with too much energy and not enough direction. He taught me discipline, respect, and how to channel my aggression into something productive. By the time I was 21, I'd earned my black belt after 16 years of blood, sweat, and tears. Now I get to pass that knowledge on to the next generation. We have 3 classes. Kids class for ages 5 through 10, intermediate class for ages 11 through 15, adult class for ages 16 and up. It keeps things organized and ensures everyone trains with people at similar developmental stages. So kids class had just ended when a woman walked in with her son. She told me her 13-year-old son wanted to take karate lessons, so I shook hands with her and had her sit down with my instructor to fill out the waivers and get him his uniform measurements. Other students filed in for the intermediate class and my assistant and I got down to business. I took the bulk of the class, around 15 kids, while my assistant went with the new student one-on-one to teach him basic strikes and stances. Not 5 minutes later, I heard my assistant upset, telling the new boy to do 10 push-ups. Why? He called my assistant, who's essentially a volunteer, a witch. Karen, the mother, stood up and said her son can't do push-ups because she doesn't want her son to be sore. My assistant let him do the push-ups on his knees, but not 5 minutes later she made him do 20 more, since he'd now called her a slut. For reference, my assistant is in her early 20s, and the boy is 13. Not to mention there were other parents and kids here as well. It was wholly inappropriate, so I walked over and asked my assistant to switch with me. When she did, she gave me the bug eyes and mouthed, "What the hell?" So I walked over and asked the boy why he insulted my assistant. He said he doesn't like girls. When I asked him what he meant, he said he only listens to his dad or other boys. Karen confirmed to me that he won't listen to her at all and that he needs some discipline. She was chuckling when she said it, as if raising a monster was something to laugh about. The boy asked me when he would get a black belt like I had. Mind you, he'd been punching the air the entire time. This boy was aggressively hyper. I told him it takes quite a while, and explained that I've been training since I was 5 and earned my black belt at 21, so it took me a while. He said he doesn't want to wait that long and demanded to have his black belt now. His chubby face was now red and sweaty from the shadow boxing. Karen motioned me over and whispered in my ear, asking if I could just give him one to make him happy. I told her no and explained that he has to earn one because we aren't a belt factory. She said he never gets told no. I apologized but said that's not how we do things here. She offered me money and said she could pay me extra. I refused again and said we only give belts when they're earned. After several minutes of arguing and conversation that led nowhere, Karen snapped at me. She stood up and pointed a finger in my face, yelling that she paid me to give her son a black belt. It was so sudden that I reflexively took a step back. Some of the other parents told her to chill out. Before I could reply to Karen, I heard a loud commotion behind me. I heard more parents and students shouting. I turned and saw the new boy smacking and hitting a girl in the class. My assistant was shouting at him to stop. However, this girl that the new boy was hitting was a purple belt and a little fighter of her own. She loaded a front kick and hit the brat boy center mass right in his flabby stomach. He shouted and doubled over, crying tears of pain. I was so freaking proud of her. Karen yelled that the little jerk hurt her son. She ran past me onto the mat and got in the face of the 14-year-old girl her son just attacked. This girl was already scared and started to cry, but Karen upped the ante and shoved this girl in the chest with her hand. My assistant got between them and was red-faced, enraged. I immediately rushed over and tried to defuse the situation, but neither of them were having it. Parents stood up and started shouting. The girl's father, who was with the other parents, yelled at Karen to keep her hands off his daughter. He started approaching aggressively but backed off when he realized my assistant and I, both black belts, were by her. Now, you should know something about my assistant. She's under 5 foot, less than 110 pounds soaking wet, but she can still kick my butt up and down the mat on any given day. She's fast, accurate, and insanely flexible. She can control her body and perform techniques that I just simply can't. So my assistant and Karen got into a shouting match with each other. I told Karen to leave with her kid and not come back. I told her to never lay a hand on any of my students and asked if she understood. I raised my voice and was genuinely pissed off. Karen screamed at me that my class was terrible and that her son needs a black belt but I won't give him one. My assistant interjected and said that her son was crazy and had attacked our students. This set Karen off when she reached and tried to slap my assistant in the face. Big mistake. Having had enough, my assistant parried the smack and fired an absolutely vicious leg kick right into the meat of Karen's inner thigh with nothing held back. The slap sound of my assistant's shin bone decimating Karen's thigh echoed off the ceiling like a slab of meat getting thrown on the floor. It was glorious. Karen gasped when she fell onto the mat in a heap. She cried out in pain and held her leg when Brat Boy got up and rushed at my assistant. I got in front of her and grabbed the boy's wildly swinging arms. He hit me a few times, but I refused to hit children whatsoever. I let him tire himself out. One of the parents called the police. After interviewing everyone involved, they determined that my assistant and myself acted in self-defense. Neither of us wanted to pursue assault charges against Karen, but the parents of the girl Karen shoved, rightly, felt differently about it. So Karen was hauled away in handcuffs. Karen said she'd sue my assistant and me in civil court, but since we have legal waivers, here's hoping nothing comes of that. When it comes to the boy, I honestly feel bad. His childhood has been robbed by terrible parenting, and I wish we could have had more time to straighten him out. I have a dislike for his views of women and feel like I really could have helped turn him around. Maybe, maybe not. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.